Hey guys, welcome back to Rather Be Visin. My name is Sam, and today we're going to be taking a look at the difference between a case statement and an if statement. So both of these are pretty frequently used within Tableau, and if you've come from Excel, then you're going to be familiar with how an if statement works, and if you've used SQL in the past, then you're going to understand how a case statement works. What we're going to do today is just go over a very basic example to work out how both of them work and which one would be best for your particular use case. So without further ado, let's hop straight into this little PowerPoint presentation I've got and take you through it. Okay, so understanding case and if statements. So let's work through an example. Let's imagine we've got all of our clothes, be it our dirty laundry and our clean clothes, all set out in front of us, and we want to categorize them based on the color or whether they're dirty or they're clean. Which one should we use? So if we have a look at a case statement, case statements are labeled bins, essentially, so buckets that you can put your items into. So each bin has a specific description, such as the color or the type of fabric that the clothes are, and that's how we can categorize our items. We can compare our laundry items, the data point, to those bin labels. So is this top red? Is this top blue? Is it a delicate? And then we can move it into the bin by using the case statement. If it matches the label, it goes into that bin and it gets that designated category, such as red clothes, blue clothes, so on and so forth. However, we can only compare exact matches. So we can only put things into buckets if they exactly match the logic that we've got. We can't use any fuzzy logic, and we can't do a sort of decision tree, or if it's not this, then it's this. That is where an if statement comes in. So if we have a look at an if statements are technically a decision tree. So we can ask it questions about our clothes. So we can say, is it red? Is it a delicate? And it can move through the logic until it finds where it should sit, what category, what bin it should sit in. So based on that answer, so our first question being, is it blue? Yes or no, true or false? It can then continue to follow the decision tree or those specific branches to get to the right category bin, such as red delicates, and so on and so forth. With an if statement, we're able to ask complex questions using and, or, and not, which we can't do with a case statement, so we can be a lot more specific around where our item belongs. So here are all of my clothes. You can see I like block colors, and I've got 3 rows of clothes. I've got my clean tops across the top, then in the middle I've got my clean tops with a stripe, and then at the bottom I've got my dirty laundry. So if we wanted to categorize these using a case statement, what we could do is something like the following. So if I want to group all of my black tops here, regardless of whether they've got a stripe or they're clean or they're dirty, I would use my case statement. I'd use it on the field in my data called color, and I would say when it is black, then pull through the value of 1. Now we can do the same thing for our dirty clothes here. So if I want to group all of these this way, I would have a look at my field in my data called clean. And I would say when my clean field says it's dirty, then again pull through that value of 1 so that when I'm showing it within my visualization, I can filter down to just the 1 to see how many dirty tops I've got. And you can see with both of these, they're quite rigid in what they're doing. So I'm only looking at one variable. So is it clean, or what is the color of it? Where that differs with an if statement is we're able to have a bit more of a flexibility with that and have a bit more control over exactly what we want to see. So if I wanted to group these 2 tops here, so they're both blue, they're both dirty, but one has a stripe, what I can do here is I can use an and within my if statement to say there's actually 2 variables I want to look at. So here we're saying if my clean field says it's dirty and the color is blue, then I want to give that a 1. I want to give that the true value. And you can see that's what it's done here. So we can see we've got our 2 blue tops. They're both dirty. It's ignoring the stripe because that's not within my if statement, but I'm able to use 2 different variables. And if we were to include more things in here, so if I wanted to pull through all of my blue tops that are dirty and all of my green tops that are clean, I could add another if statement underneath that one to say if clean equals clean and color equals green, then 2, and then I would have all my 1s would be my dirty blue tops and all my 2s would be my clean green tops. So when should you use a case statement and when should you use an if statement? So let's have a look at a case statement here. So here we've got case color. When it's black, I want to put it into group 1. When it's white, group 2. And when it's green, group 3. When dealing with a case statement, Tableau will look at the field and then determine the value. So the way that Tableau is going to process this is it's going to have a look at my color field and it's going to say, right, this row here says white. That needs to go into group 2. This row here says green. That needs to go into group 3. And that's how Tableau is going to process it, which means that it's a lot quicker to process because there's less variables onto what bucket it can fall into. And so when you have well-defined categories, using a case statement is probably the way to go. Now, if we have a look at an if statement here, we can see we've got quite a lengthy one here. Starting off with an if, so if it is black and my clean field says dirty, then I want to label it as a dirty black t-shirt. Then I've got an else if, so if that's not true, then on to my next one. It's going to say, is it blue and is it clean? And then if that's not true, then it's going to go to my third one and say, is it red and is it dirty? So as we saw there, when dealing with this, it's going to move through each of these statements one after the other. So whereas with a case statement, it's going to look at the field and it's going to say, right, this field says white, it needs to go into group 2. What it's going to do here is it's going to go, right, I've got a red dirty t-shirt. Is that black and dirty? Is that blue and clean? Is that red and dirty? So it's going to move through that one by one on each of those statements until it gets to where it should sit. So it uses a lot more processing power. So if you find that you're using a lot of if statements and your dashboards are performing slow, then try and see if you can change any of them to be a case statement, because that's going to instantly improve the performance of that. But again, if statements do have their place and they're really good if you need to have that flexibility with complex logic. You might have multiple fields that determine on where a value should sit, and you can't do all of that within a case statement, so an if statement could be the way to go. And there you have it. That is the difference between case statements and if statements. Hopefully you found that useful. If you did, please let me know in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff, and I'll catch you in the next video. Cheers for watching.